there we go. Hi. Hi, friends. This is Emily Windsor Craig, and I just found another hole in the fabric of information that we don't get ordinarily. And in this case, what we're witnessing is a series of events that have been staged from behind a curtain by President Trump going back to his inauguration in 2017. He's been starting out with executive orders and doing things all the way along that he didn't talk about. Okay. In 2017, he already knew that there was a coup aligned against him. In 2018, he wrote another executive order to undergird his very quiet approach to dealing with it. And what the mainstream media is not doing is not talking about the methods of Trump versus the methods of the establishment. And the establishment are the Democrats who are here to take down our form of representative republic and replace it with socialism, and with the help of and the leadership of the establishment robber barons who profit off the conflicts, disputes, and protests that the left wants to pursue. Okay, so I went to my bookcase and I found The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And this copy of it I got from a bookstore, and it already has underlining. So let's follow along with Sun Tzu and look at the method that this Chinese brilliant statistician came up with. First thing he says, there has never been a protracted war from which a country has benefited. Oh, okay. And he says, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. He says, his constant emphasis is on doing the unexpected and pursuing the indirect approach. Okay, following the guy's notes. His purpose was to develop a systematic treatise to guide rulers and generals in the intelligent prosecution of successful war. He believed that the skillful strategist should be able to subdue the enemy's army without engaging it, to take his cities without laying siege to them, and to overthrow his state without bloodying swords. Okay. Numbers alone never confer an advantage. Take all intact, or as nearly intact as possible, was the proper objective of strategy. Sun Tzu was convinced that careful planning based on sound information of the enemy would contribute to a speedy military decision. In Sun Tzu's view, the army was the instrument which delivered the coup de grace to an enemy previously made vulnerable. Prior to hostilities, secret agents separated the enemy's allies from him and conducted a variety of clandestine subversive activities. Among their missions were to spread false rumors and misleading information, to corrupt and subvert officials, to create and exacerbate internal discord, and to nurture fifth columns. All right. And so there was a philosophical point to this whole thing that I thought was excellent. And this is the ethic of the method. If a man kills an innocent man, steals his clothing and his spear and sword, his offense is graver than breaking into a stable and stealing an ox or a horse. The injury is greater, the offense is graver, and the crime of a higher degree. Any man of sense knows that is wrong. knows that is unrighteous. But when murder is committed in attacking a country, it is not considered wrong. It is applauded and called righteous. Can this be considered as knowing what's righteous and what's unrighteous? Okay, so what we see in Sun Tzu's work is basically the strategies that China as a nation has been following with respect to the West since in the Kennedy's administration, the West has been handing off their technical secrets to China and letting China rob the United States of whole industrial towns. Okay, I'm not certain whether China has done the same thing to Europe, but Europe is in turmoil too. All right, so it's clear that China has been following the art of war by Sun Tzu. Let's now think about the establishment, the neocons and the rhinos, and what they have been following. And that's in, oops, not there. Where did it go? Here it is. Project for a New American Century. You know, I keep putting up the roster of the Project for the New American Century because there are both Democrats and Republicans in that roster, okay? Establishment Republicans are on that roster, particularly Bob Mueller. So let's look at what the Project for a New American Century was about. The Project for a New American Century, PNAC, was founded in 1997 by the right-wing thinkers William Kristol and Robert Kagan. This group is arguably one of the most influential in Washington and is thought to have a significant influence, or at least to reflect much of George Bush's view of the world. The PNAC believes that America should use its power to shape the world and further American interests, corporate, across the world by military means if necessary. It has some high-profile sympathizers, including U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, his deputy Paul Wolfowitz, John Bolton, the Undersecretary of State for Arms Control and International Security, and Richard Pearl, many of whom are implicated in the 9/11 thing. All right. All of these people were among a group of 18 who signed a letter from the PNAC to Bill Clinton in 1998, urging him to oppose Saddam's regime. The most important document produced by the group was published in September 2000 as Mr. Bush was running for the presidency. The report, called Rebuilding America's Defenses, said that America's goal should be to promote American global leadership, namely corporate. It called for increased defense spending, coupled with a strong foreign policy which promotes American democracy across the globe, all hallmarks of the current U.S. foreign policy. Now, this article is written in 2004. The mission statement reads, having led the West to victory in the Cold War, America faces an opportunity and a challenge. Does the United States have the vision to build upon the achievement of past decades? Does the United States have the resolve to shape a new century favorable to American principles and interests? All right, principles. Okay, you can create fights around principles in order to favor American corporate interests, and that is what PNAC did, which was bipartisan, all right, and which the neocons did, which were also joined by members of the American Communist Party, right, and which other members of the establishment Republican Party who have business interests in China have also established. And this is why the leadership of the Republican Party threw President Trump under the bus and did not prosecute the massive election fraud that was experienced, that we saw if we were watching alternative news sources. For those people who are stuck in front of their TVs watching just mainstream news, they don't know anything about any of this. They never will. They're there to have their ears tickled. All right. Now, what the establishment Republicans did not anticipate was that President Trump has read The Art of War. And he has basically anticipated what China and the establishment Republicans have been doing all along. In fact, I get the impression that he's been studying this situation for decades, and he understands what is going on. So now that a new inauguration is coming up, and the gentleman to be inaugurated as president is almost wholly dependent on China's largesse and bribes, etc., in order to maintain his wealth status. Okay, we have Joe Biden is beholden to China, whereas the American military is doing everything they can to oppose and keep China within China's boundaries. Okay, what happens when the new chief executive, who's buddy-buddy with China, if he becomes inaugurated? What does China do then? All right, what does China do when Joe Biden becomes president? This is the question we have to ask. And this is no doubt the question that President Trump has been seriously considering. This may have something to do with the security measures going on in Washington, D.C. as we speak. Somewhere between 30 and 35,000 soldiers are there now. Whom are they protecting? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, because the actual events of the next few days have been planned from behind a curtain of secrecy. We're going to have to wait and see. And my heart says there's a chance that the United States for America will persist and thrive once again. Just a chance. We'll see now how it goes. Till tomorrow. This is Emily Windsor Craig. Watch the method. The method is the clue.